Hello, quality people. For those that are new here, my name is Kenya, the host of the Faith and Beyond show. This show is all about talking with people about their testimonies and how they operate as Christians in this world. Please give a warm welcome to Rachel, the host of the Beautifully Surrendered podcast, to this episode of Faith and Beyond.
Hi, thanks so much for
Hi.
having me, Kenya.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
You're welcome. I'm good. We just got back from a little work trip, so I was like working on getting Enid, my son, he's 7 months old, fed and changed, and then I quickly ran to go get ready while he's like playing at my feet. So I'm
Oh,
good.
good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So before we get into your testimony, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your podcast?
Yeah. So my name is Rachel, like Kenya said. I'm a wife and a mom. So me and my husband have been married for almost 2 years now. We live in Oklahoma. We have a baby. His name is Enid. He's 7 months old. I love to write, and I'm adding like speaking too. Like probably a couple years ago, I would not have said that, but it is one thing I feel called to do. So writing and speaking. I do have a podcast called the Beautifully Surrendered Podcast. I was kind of taking a pause just because becoming a mom is a lot, and I realized there was a lot of things I had to work on. So I'm on a break, but hopefully in January I will continue with it. Um, yeah, I love to write, speak, um, and read books in my free time and work out. So that's a little bit about me.
Nice. I love it. Now, on
Yeah.
that note, let's get into your testimony.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we're just going to get into Rachel's testimony, and she's going to share her journey to faith and why she surrendered to Jesus.
Yeah, so I was raised in a Christian home all my life, but as a lot of people say, I feel like I was just like going through the motions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then my sophomore year of high school, I found the Lord. So basically, I remember in my high school, you had to take like 1 year of athletics or PE. And especially at the time, I was not athletics. I was like, I'm doing PE, like the easiest route.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, we didn't have to do that much for some reason. Like, when we weren't doing anything, like, we would sit in these bleachers and, like, chat and hang out. But I didn't really have many friends in that class, especially. And so I don't remember, like, what, like, sparked it. But all of a sudden, I found, I had all this, like, 45 minutes of free time. So I found myself journaling and getting into the Bible, and I just, like, fell with it, like, it was the only thing I wanted to do, and I, like, remember, like, a specific moment, like, sitting in those bleachers, and I was like, "I'm called to ministry," and, of course, I didn't know, like, what that looked like, and half the time, I still kind of don't, but that basically is, like, how I found Jesus, and I've gone through, like, so many moments in my life where the Lord has really asked me to trust Him. And I feel like a big part of my testimony is learning to trust Him and just continuing that. And we'll get into like walking by faith. That's like a big theme in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And just curious, how old are you
Yeah.
again?
I'm 23, so I'll be 24 in February. Yeah. How old are you?
I am 25. But
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
that's really cool because I think a
Yeah.
lot of people, especially nowadays, tend to find or dedicate their lives to Jesus later on. Like for me, I was
Mhm.
like 21, but it's
Yeah.
really cool that you were able to find him much earlier. And I'm
Yes.
sure that helps like sift out a bunch of unnecessary things that you could have experienced if you didn't.
Oh,
So that's really cool.
definitely. Oh, I know. I'm so thankful. I feel like sometimes, like, I mean, my testimony is so powerful. I think sometimes people feel like me, like, oh, you're raised in church all your life, and then you finally like, find the Lord. And I feel like some people think that's still not a testimony, but it still is. I mean,
Yeah.
the Lord says that there's power in our testimony. So,
Yeah, 100%. And like the fact that
yeah.
he like came to you even though you were, sitting alone, like I think that's
Yeah.
when he really shows himself like in times of loneliness and not being
Oh,
around people. So,
definitely. Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah,
It was really cool.
yeah, good stuff. Okay, on that
Yeah.
note, let's take a sip and move on to the next topic.
Cool.
You know that was fire. And if you want to see some more fire content, then go ahead and subscribe. And while you're down there, go ahead and like this video. Now back to the action.
Walking by faith. This is super important. So, Rachel
Yeah.
loves talking about this topic.
hmm
Rachel, why do you walk by faith and what's the point in walking by faith?
Oh, so good. So I walk by faith because I want to be obedient, like to what the Lord is calling me to do, and like what the Lord has called me and my husband to do. Because I feel like in our obedience, the Lord blesses that. And already, I feel like there's been like so many times where my husband and I have been called to take a step in something, and we have no idea what that looks like. I feel like I could tell you so many stories, even just like this year of what the Lord has asked us to do, and we don't know like what it's going to look like. But we just do it, and then later we see like, oh my gosh, that's like totally why the Lord asked us to do this. Like you see little puzzle pieces, and then later you see them all come together. But the point
Yeah.
of walking by faith
Oh, well,
is
before,
get what?
sorry, 1 second. Before we get into what's the point, can you give us an
Yeah.
example of
Oh
um,
yeah.
y'all walking by faith?
Okay, this is a good one. So we live in a really small town in Oklahoma, and really like if we could be like in our flesh, like we would not live here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what people's views on this are, but in this small town, there are so many grow houses, and it's really sad. Like, all of these old buildings downtown are just like the Chinese have come in and they buy them for like really, I guess, really expensive. They pay cash for them,
I've heard of
and
that.
they
That's
grow
crazy.
weed. Yeah, they grow weed out of these buildings. And, like, there's so many. I'm like, "Is there still a market for this?" I mean, obviously, I'm not into that, obviously, but you, like, walk downtown or drive downtown and you smell the weed, like, it's so strong. But, yeah, so me and my husband feel called to this small town. Yeah, in our flesh, we would not wanna do this. So, I feel like our past 2 years of marriage, we've been, like, going back and forth because we lived in Tulsa, and then now we live in this small town. So, the craziest part, we're, like, entrepreneurs at heart, like,
Mm-hmm.
we just love it. We love
Yeah,
doing multiple things. I remember, like, asking the Lord, like, "Lord, I want a man who does a lot of things," and he
me too.
totally fulfilled that. Um, and so and this is also weird. So my husband has his own small business. Okay, I have examples. Perfect. He sells old photos in like old paper. So I have an example here because he has a live sale later. But it's like this is a train. So this is I
Hmm.
don't know if you can tell really. But
Hmm.
like he sells old photos, and in July the Lord felt like the Lord was like, Andrew, I want you to cash out. And he was like, sell my entire stock of what I've got. And I did not know this was a thing. Let's just pause there. Like, I did not know this was a thing, but apparently
Yeah.
it is. And the Lord's like, Andrew, I want you to cash out, sell all your stock. And he slept on it. And in the morning, he told me, and I was like, okay. I feel that in a big way, and we'll probably get into this later, but a big way that we feel the Lord's like confirmation through his peace if we feel peace about it. And I felt peace about it. So I was like, okay, so we're going to do that. And within 24 hours, so he had reached out to multiple people, and then within 24 hours, he had a buyer for all of these like old photos, which is crazy.
Oh,
I still
nice.
like am baffled. I'm like, how is this like our living? It's really weird. But within 24 hours, he had a buyer fly out from Pennsylvania to Oklahoma, and then he drove it all back.
Oh,
And
wow.
so after that, we were just like, I don't know what that was, but we did it. And like, I won't say the amount, but it was enough, like almost exactly enough to pay off my student loans. Which so that's like a
Sweet.
huge testimony in itself. We
Yeah,
just
that's
had like
awesome.
no idea, and time and time again, the Lord has just been providing in different ways. So that's just like one example.
Yeah, that really shows like what happens when we're obedient to God.
Oh,
Everything just lines up perfectly.
definitely. Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And then you want
So,
me to get into like why we're called to walk by faith?
yeah, like what's the point in walking in faith?
Yeah. I feel like the Lord has called us to do this. I mean, in the Bible, there's so many stories of the Lord asking people to do random weird things, and I think it's really meant to like stretch us. And I think really the point is for us to learn how to trust the Lord. That's been like a huge theme in my life. Like there was like getting into college was a huge testimony for me. Like
Hmm.
I was okay in high school, but I applied to my dream school, which was Oral Roberts University.
Oh, nice.
That was yeah, so that was the only school I applied to, and because I had a lot of family go there, and so
Hmm.
I applied there, and like I didn't know I was gonna get in, and I got in, and then the Lord provided for me to go, and so I feel like walking by faith is a huge trusting exercise. The Lord's like, hey, I want you to trust Him, and like He knows what the outcome is gonna be. He just wants to see if we're gonna take a step of obedience, and so. I think that's a huge part of just learning to trust him and know that he knows all things and he's going in front of us and he's going behind us. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And I
Yeah.
think I think another thing, like the point of walking by faith, I think another thing, it provides us hope also.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, if anything, if something hard is going on, you walk by faith, you put your trust in the Lord, there's hope that also comes along with that. So, yeah.
Oh, definitely. That's good.
Um, okay, so what would you say is the hardest part about walking by faith?
I feel like the hardest part about walking by faith is doing it and being like, okay, Lord, are you really asking me? I feel like doubt can kind of creep in. And sometimes it can be things that would not like normally be practical. Um, so I think it's the doubt, like, Lord, am I doing what you're supposed to be doing? Because I also like to think of like walking by faith it's like you're walking with a blindfold on, you can't
Mm-hmm.
see anything. It's kind of like you're blind, but you're just walking, but really the Lord is with you. You just can't see his whole entire picture. So I think just that doubt can creep in and the enemy can come in and be like, are you sure you're doing this? Like you really shouldn't be doing this. And so I think that is one hard thing about walking by faith.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that too because sometimes you're just like, okay, are you sure, God? Are you sure I'm supposed to go
Yeah.
this way? Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So, how do you catch yourself if you notice you're acting on fear rather than on faith?
Yeah. I think I realize like I'm worrying so much. And like I'm a person who sometimes can time to time struggle with anxiety. And so I feel like if I'm just like it's coming up and I'm just worrying, I feel like I'm aware of my anxiety. Like I have a counselor, so I tell her like I'm aware. I'm aware of my like what I'm thinking and everything, and so I kind of just pause and we go back to like me and my husband. We go back to, do we have peace about what we're doing or the situation, or like my husband always asks me, Rachel, like about anything, like, Rachel, what do you feel in your spirit? And I'm like, okay, I feel peace. Like even just like moving to this small town, I feel so much peace. I remember one day we drove back here, and it's like a 2-hour drive from Tulsa. And so we drove back here, and it's like honestly a town like probably most people wouldn't want to live in. It's a small town. And we just had like so much peace. And we were kind of like, that's kind of annoying, but I know we're supposed to be here. So,
Yeah, I can relate to that because even like after college, I came back to my hometown and I
yeah,
did not want to do it at all. But now that I'm
yeah,
here, it's just like everything just is perfect. Like everything's just perfect.
yeah.
So,
It just clicks into place. I love that.
yeah, it's wild. All right. On that note, let's take a sip and move on to the next topic. All right. So, you mentioned that you have embarked on a new journey of taking a class on speaking. What made you decide to move forward with that?
That's so good. Such a question. So really, so I was a communication major in college, and technically, like, I'm an introvert at heart. And I feel like, I've always felt called to write and especially speak. And I've been trying to like build up my confidence in that. And again, like starting my podcast. So that was like a big step for me. But, I was trying to be confident in myself and I was not feeling confident. I feel like I was at my all time low. I remember like me and my husband were on a trip, and a girl that I listened to that also had on my podcast a while back, she
Mhm.
had someone on her podcast that I follow on Instagram. I really looked up to. She had like good amount of followers, and I just thought, oh my gosh, if I was to interview her, I would be embarrassed. Like I was like, my interviewing skills are not great. Like this girl is a top-notch podcaster, and I just do not feel equipped. Like I just didn't feel equipped. And so one day we're in the car. I think we were driving back from the
Mhm.
place where we went on our road trip. And we were just, me and my husband were just chatting it up. And I was telling him this, like, Andrew, like, I'm just not feeling confident in myself. And we had this great, like, Holy Spirit moment. And he was like, Rachel, I could be wrong. So he was like, tell me if I'm wrong. But he was like, I feel like the Lord is saying, like, you have your content down, like, you have the writing down. You just need to be confident in speaking. And until you're confident in speaking, the Lord's not going to give you the platform that you want. And I was like, oh man, I feel convicted right now. And he was like, I just feel like you need to practice speaking. And I feel like he's great at speaking. Like you could give him a topic and he could just come up with it on the fly and he'd be great. But me, I
Yeah,
feel
that's
like
how
I just,
Josh is too.
yeah, yeah. And I'm like, I just need a little bit of work, and that's like totally fine. And so I just feel like, okay, I know I need to be practicing and preparing because the Lord, eventually like may throw me an opportunity, like having someone on my podcast, and then it's like, oh, but I'm not ready. So I want to be ready for whatever opportunity is right. So how I got into that. So there's this girl on Instagram called Christy Rye. I don't know if any of your followers know who she is. But she was part of like Dave Ramsey, and she really felt, I mean, her testimony is like a big thing on walking on faith too. She felt like she was supposed to leave her job with Dave Ramsey, and she was like in the height of her career last year, and she was speaking. She was so confident in her speaking, and like last year she launched a book and all this stuff. And then 2 months later, after her book launch, the Lord was like, Christy, I want you to leave Ramsey Solutions, which is scary because like leaving your job, like
Hmm.
that's scary in itself. And so basically the Lord was like, Christy, I don't want you to do anything for 3 months. And she's like, that's hard for me. Like, I'm a doer. And like, my husband is that way too. Like, he wants to do things. He's a visionary. He wants to see them happen. And then I guess one day she woke up after the 3 months was over, and she didn't know when the 3 months were going to be over. And she woke up at like 6 a.m. And the Lord's like, Christy, I want you to train speakers. And there's people I'm calling to speak, but they don't know how to speak. And so I want you to teach them. And so she is basically, I feel like, launching a whole new career. And she's training speakers. And I follow her through this. And I just feel like on my heart, like I needed to follow her and keep seeing what she was doing. And so I remember she did like an Instagram live video and saying what she's doing now. And she's like, I have coaching. And she's like, and I'm launching this course. And it sounded really good. And then she's like, but it's going to be $1,200. And I was like, I just felt like I wanted to do it, but I'm not going to ask. I don't ask for a lot of things. And so like I'm not going to ask my husband if I could get this. So I could see the like wheels in his brain turning, but
Yeah.
we didn't do anything. We just left it at that. And then like a week later, we go on a date night and he was like, I have a present for you. He was like, it's not wrapped up. But this is like your Christmas and birthday present, like all in one. And he was like, I want to gift you the Christy Wright course. So
Oh, nice.
that's basically
Yes.
how, yeah. So that's basically how I ended up. I just want to be confident in myself, in my speaking. And so, like, when opportunities and things arise in the future, like 5, 10 years down the road, I'll be ready and prepared and like know how to speak.
Yeah, I love that. Also, it sounds like you have a
Yeah.
super supportive husband.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. I'm so thankful.
yeah, just to get off course a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about like how you guys met and stuff?
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, I love this story. So we met. Our whole relationship is fast paced, but I feel like that's just how we work. So we met in 2020, the height of COVID and everything. So I was interning at my church at the time. I had been going there a couple years, like in college in Tulsa, and so we're using Tulsa, if anyone doesn't know. Um, and this internship literally just like fell in my lap. I remember I didn't have to like do any application or anything. They're like, yeah, you can intern if you want. And there was like I think 2 or 3 other people interning with me. And and then COVID, happens. And then I was like,
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to still do it because it was like from May to beginning of August. And I was like, I don't know if I'm still going to be able to do this. And I was still able to do it. And so I drive down, or actually, let's back up. So 2 weeks before I go back to Tulsa, I'm from Texas. So I was at my parents' house in Texas. And I was in the shower, oddly enough. And I was kind of like praying, just thinking. And it felt like the Lord was like, Rachel, you really need to pray for your future husband. And it felt like urgent and like pressing, like you need to pray for him now. And so I was like, okay, I don't know. And like I remember like getting out of the shower and I was talking to my sister. I have one sister. And I was like, I feel like I might be in a relationship next year, but I don't know. And to add, I'd never been in a relationship before this.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I don't know. And so, you know, I go to Tulsa, our internship starts, and there's Andrew. He's 2 years older than me, and he was working at this church at the time. He was on staff. So he did like missions and outreach stuff, and then he did like tech stuff, like AV, all that sound, all of that. And so there's 2 other girls that were interning with me. They're a little bit younger than me, but it was like totally fine. Like we clicked. Right after that, I remember like he was just always there. Like if we were in a group. And I remember like a week into this, I told the girls, I was like, yeah, like before I came, like this is what I felt. But, like, I don't know if that was just me. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're totally gonna marry him. And they're like, you have to send us wedding invites. And I was like, yo, chill. Like, we don't even know. And yeah, and so his side of the story is like really cool too, but I'll keep it brief. But like I feel like the Lord like really hinted at him, like, hey, she's coming and stuff. And apparently he says that like the first day he shows up and like we're there. I think we were handing out food. We were doing like a food outreach. And he just walked up and he was like, oh, that's my wife. So our story is really cool. I love it.
Oh, that's super cute. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
thanks.
guys sound great. Hashtag goals.
Thanks. Thank you. Yes.
So, with the course, what has your experience
Yeah.
been like so far? Are you noticing any
It's been
improvements?
Yeah, it's been really good. So, I guess technically I've been in like 4 sessions. So like it's every Tuesday at 12 Central. Um she had like an intro, and then since I signed up on the first day, I got a bonus lesson. It was like how to get speaking gigs, which I feel like I'm not at that level yet. But it's great that I got that information.
Mhm.
It's been really good. So the first session was like how to write a talk, and she like gave us like downloadable stuff. It was very helpful, like where what to put where and everything. And then this past week was like what order you speak it in. And so I feel like I'm learning so much, and she always like advises us like when we're giving a talk, like definitely if it's like inspiring, even if it's inspiring, like give like 3 practical steps at the end for the audience to follow, because like they're inspired, they're like, yes, I need help in whatever area, and they just want like advice, like where do I go from here. And she's like, I've been listening to so many like inspirational people, and they give talks, and like, yes, I'm hungry for this information, but then they don't give like any practical advice, like what to do. They don't give pointers. And
Mhm.
so it's been really good. I feel like I'm learning a lot. And like she really talks about stories, and obviously like we've told like some stories in
Yeah.
this, and stories like grab your audience's attention. And I know also she's going to be talking about humor, to add humor in your talks, which I need because I feel like I'm not a funny person. So I know I can definitely like need that will help me in that area. So I feel like I'm learning a lot so far. So, and she has like a community it's kind of like college where you have like discussion posts. We have those, but it's like way
Mhm.
better because it's not
Yeah, way
perfect.
better.
So I feel like yeah, I feel like I'm learning a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to like
Yeah.
hear your improvements and everything when your
Oh, I
podcast comes
know.
back.
Thanks. Yeah.
Um, so how do you think this investment has helped with where God is calling you?
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely going to help. I mean, I feel like I'm a writer. I feel like I just like a lot of times just write so much stuff down. I don't know where to put things, like how much is too much. And so I feel like this is really gonna help me, because even just in these first 2 lessons, like I know like how to write it, what like having transition sentences. And yeah, I feel like it's gonna help me a lot. I feel like I'm gonna be confident, because she's like, most people like they don't know how to speak because they don't know how to organize their content. And so
Mhm.
I feel like I'm gonna know like how specifically to write these talks and how to give them and everything. And so I feel like it's going to help so much. I feel like it's just gonna be like a catalyst of for the future. So yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. Especially because
Yeah.
I am also like trying to learn more about like speaking and journalism and
Yeah.
media
Mhm.
training and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So I definitely relate
Mhm.
to all the stuff that you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
On that note, let's take a sip and move on to the next topic. Okay, let's move on to the topic of motherhood. We have another mother on the
Yeah.
show. We love the mothers.
Yes.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your birth story and how it's been being a mother these last 7 months?
Oh, yes, definitely. And I know, okay, buckle up because I have a wild story. The actual birth was great, but it was after. Okay. So actual birth went really well. So you hear like all these stories of like having an epidural, not having an epidural, having a home birth, giving in the hospital. Well, I hate pain. And once, like when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, I'm going to get that epidural. Like I already know. So I was like, yeah, I definitely like want to give birth in the hospital and everything. And so I basically was full term. I was like 40 weeks and 2 days. And so I got induced. I know everyone has different opinions on it, but we had a lot of peace about me getting induced. And even like my mother-in-law was like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And so we just felt like peace about it. We're like, "Okay, I'm gonna get induced." So I remember I went in. So he was born March 17th. So we went in the day before at 5 p.m. It was a Wednesday. And so basically, we're getting into all the details. So first, they have to like soften your cervix, and so they had to give me a medicine that would soften my cervix. I think I was already dilated to like 1 centimeter, and the nurse, I was there overnight. So she would give it like 3 doses, like every 4 hours, and so she gave me the first dose. And I was like, fine. I was like, okay, it feels like period cramps, like mild period cramps, like I'm good. And then she gave me the second dose, and I don't think this medicine is really supposed to like create contractions. Like you have Pitocin that will create contractions, and they were gonna give that to me in the morning.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, this medicine was giving me like these crazy contractions, and I was in so much pain. I feel like my husband Andrew felt so bad for me. And they're
Oh,
like, rest, because like sleep, rest, 'cause, like you're gonna have a hard day tomorrow. And I was in so much pain, like I literally could not sleep. And the nurse came in and gave me the third dose, I think, if I remember. And I really just like wanted the epidural, but for some reason in my mind I felt like, oh, I need to stick it out till the morning and then get it in the morning. I think it's at this point it's like 4 a.m. and I don't know what it's called. I don't know what all these medicines are called. But there's a medicine, it's like pain relief, but it kind of just like takes the edge off. And to give a backstory, like I've never drank, so I don't know what being drunk feels like. And
hmm.
as she's like, I was like, yeah, I'll take this pain medicine and then go from there.
Hmm.
And as she's inserting it like into my IV, she was like, "It's gonna feel like you're drunk." And I was like, "Great!
I
I've
don't
never
know what
felt
that
like
looks
that
like.
before." And so, like I felt like I opened my eyes and the room was spinning, and so I just
Ooh.
closed my eyes. It helped for literally 5 minutes, and then after that, I was still in pain. But
Oh,
I
that
still,
sucks.
like, felt like the room was spinning, and so I just, like yeah, I know. So I just kept my eyes closed, and eventually it wore off. I felt a little loopy, but it was really weird, and I was like, "Never again." So, I know now for the future, like, when I have another baby, I'm definitely not getting that, and so I told her I remember, I was like, "I definitely want that epidural," and it was, like, getting to 6 a.m., and then also you have to, like, go through a bag of fluids. I don't
Hmm.
know all the science behind it, but you have to go through a bag of fluids before you can get an epidural. So I did that, and I think I remember telling her, like, "Hey, I'm in a lot of pain." And I think she was like I think because I had been on my side, and she was like, "Oh, just, like, switch your position or whatever." And that obviously, like, wasn't working, and so
Yeah.
I remember the anesthesiologist came in, and also they tell your husband or partner or whoever is in there with you to leave the room. And I think while you get the epidural,
I'm
I think it's
sorry.
because
I'm
they will
sorry.
what?
You're sounding a little like muffled a little bit.
You hear me? Hello? Testing. Testing.
Not to me. Oh, okay. Okay, keep going.
Continue. Okay. So when you're getting the epidural, they tell your partner or husband or whoever's with you to leave the room, and I'm pretty sure it's because they would probably faint because it's just not a pretty sight. So I'm like bending over, because you have to bend over. I'm like hugging my nurse, and she's looking at the contraction tracker. She's like, "Yeah, you're having contractions like every minute or two," and I was, "Yeah, I told you." um, so I get the epidural, and for me, it was magic. Like, I wasn't in any pain anymore. I could finally sleep. And the new nurse came in because it was like 7 a.m. at this point.
Mhm.
And she like introduced herself. And I was able to sleep. And at some point, my doctor came in and broke my water, and I was at 3 centimeters. Like, I've heard some induction stories like take so long, but my birth went really fast. And so I progressed I progressed like really fast. And so she came in at like 7 and introduced herself. I was part of 3, and like I said, my doctor came in and broke my water. And at like 11:30, I was feeling pressure down there. And like it kind of feels like you have to go to the bathroom, but it's just like obviously like way more intense.
Mhm.
And so I told her, and so I did like practice pushes with her. And like I'm introverted, and I'm a peacemaker.
Yeah.
And now I've learned my lesson to like call them when you need something, because that's what they're there for. But I would feel pressure down there, and then no one would be in there, and feel bad for calling them. And Andrew's like, "Babe, that's what they're there for." And so I finally like got over that, and so now especially I've gotten over that. But my nurse came in, and like she did practice pushes with me. I was basically almost at 10 centimeters. And I've heard stories of women pushing for like hours and hours, especially if it's their first baby. But I guess I was just determined to get him
You're
out
like, no.
because, yeah, I pushed like several times with my nurse, and then they're waiting on my doctor to come. And um, I think they told me I pushed him out in 2 pushes with my doctor. So
You
she wasn't
know,
even there for that long, and I pushed him out in 30 minutes,
wow.
which
You know,
also to note, he was almost 9 pounds. So I don't know how
wow.
I did that. And they were amazed, like, "Is this your first baby?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I pushed him out in 30 minutes, and
Wow. That's crazy
yeah,
because
that's my bursary.
that's something I keep hearing is like being able to push their baby out like 2 pushes. Like that's what I pray
Yeah,
for whenever
I
it's time
know.
for me to push out my baby. I want like two
Oh,
pushes and done.
definitely. Definitely. And, like, I definitely, like, pushed for longer, but it was, like, with my nurse. Then when my doctor came, it was 2 pushes apparently. But no, being a mom has been so good. I'm gonna tell, like, one last story
Mhm.
for this question, but I had a really hard time, like, starting off. I was just like, obviously you're tired because you have a newborn, but I was just so tired and just felt foggy and off. I was feeling pains down there. And okay, so one night I was like 4 days postpartum. I was kind of feeling like shivery, like you having a fever. And I kind of just ignored it. I was on pain medicine. Um, and so that was like breaking my fever. It's like in the morning I felt fine. It's like I'm just tired. And then that night, and we kept an eye on it and like told a doctor, an OB that was on call. They're like, just keep an eye on it, and if you get your fever again and it goes up, it's like 104 or whatever, go to ER. And so we had my father-in-law come over that night to watch our baby so we could get some sleep. And that was like a major God thing because I don't know what we would have done. So I'm 5 days postpartum. I go to sleep. and I wake up, and also at first we thought I had like a virus or a cold or something, and so my husband was sleeping in another room just to be safe, and so I wake up at like 1 a.m. I'm so hot at this point. I'm shivering. I know I have a fever. And I remember I had to go to the bathroom. And I was so like hot and cold that I was like, if I get up right now, like I'm gonna fall over. So I called my husband. He wakes up immediately, like praise God. And I was like, Andrew, like I have to go to the bathroom, but like I'm gonna fall over. So he goes to the bathroom, and I sit down after that, and he takes my temperature, and it's 104. So obviously he
Mm-mm.
calls, and
Yeah.
he already like made up his mind, like I'm taking you to the ER. And then I felt like super nauseous, and I was like, I'm literally about to throw up right now. And I got sick. I also got that over with, unfortunately. And then he took my temperature again. It shot up to 107. Like,
Wow.
I have never known anyone that has had that high of a fever. So obviously it's so serious. So my
Yeah.
father-in-law was there taking care of our baby, which is like a lifesaver. And so he takes me to the hospital. It's like 3 a.m. at this point. And I, for some reason, was like, oh, we're gonna have to wait a long time. No, like we got there, I told them what was going on, and within like a minute or two, they called me back. And yeah, so we finally like got a room in the ER. They gave me fluids and some antibiotics. And basically to sum it up, I was there like all day. My fever like was going down. It's like 101, 102, 101, 102. And then let's see. Oh, and then my heart rate was like resting was like 130s to 150s. It was
Oh,
crazy. I think it was
wow.
because it was so bad. I think it was because I was really hot, and I feel like they were really taking it seriously, and they like obviously kept checking in on me, and they kept giving me fluids and everything. But basically, since I was 5 days postpartum, they're like, we're gonna put you on the labor and delivery floor on the postpartum part of the floor, because after you have your baby, they like move you to another room on the
Hmm.
postpartum part of the floor. So like we're gonna move you to the postpartum part of the floor. And they're waiting on a room, and apparently there was no rooms, and so many women were in labor, and I was like, well, I'm glad I already have my baby. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so we finally, at like 3, 4 in the afternoon, they're like, we found your room. So they moved me to the room. And I was there for like an hour or two. And we told the girl I was checking my vitals. We were like, her fever has been up and down like all day. And she comes in. It's like probably 7 o'clock, 'cause it was like the night shift now. So the girl comes in and told her. And she checks my fever. It's shot up to almost 107 again. I think it was like 106.9 or something.
Mhm.
She freaks out. And then all of a sudden, there's like, Andrew counted, there was like 15 people in the room that brought in a crash cart.
Oh,
And I was like,
geez.
you see this on like Grey's Anatomy and stuff.
Yeah.
I was kind of freaking out. And so they basically felt like they like dunked me nice. They put so many cold rags and ice packs and ice all over me, and like gave me more medicine to bring down the fever, and gave me more fluids and everything. And an ICU doctor like introduces herself, and she was like, we're gonna go take you to get a CT scan, which I had never had that done before. And then she's like, and after that, we're gonna take you to a floor that's a step below ICU. And I was like, oh my gosh. And obviously, I was out of it, but I was like anxious the entire time. And the nurse that had checked my temperature, she was like, let me know if you feel like you're about to have a seizure. And actually, my mom has
Oh,
epilepsy. So I've
uh-huh.
seen seizures. And I was like, oh my gosh, freaking out. But obviously, I did not have a seizure, so that was great.
That's good. Yeah.
They take me to go get a CT scan. They take me to the floor, and I just like felt so bad. Like we are just like me and Andrew were kind of like laughing at my situation, because they're like moving me to this floor, and there's like all these old men like struggling. Seemed like they're connected to all these things and like hanging by a thread. I remember we were in our room and this other nurse in another room is yelling at this old man, like, tell me what your name is. Where are you? And we were like, what is our life? So, anyways, to sum it up, I was there for a couple days. They gave me fluids and a really strong IV antibiotic.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what was wrong with me is I had a UTI that
Oh,
turned into a kidney infection because my uterus is still really enlarged and it was pressing against my right kidney and it almost turned into sepsis. That's what
jeez.
happened to me. And then eventually I got moved to the postpartum floor and then I was able to go home. So I was there for like 5 days. Yeah, it was crazy. So I had a very rough start to postpartum life.
Yeah.
But no,
So
but
did
being a
all that
mom,
so did all that
what?
happen from giving birth? Was that the
So
cause of it?
I think I think I already had a UTI like before I gave birth. And it
Gotcha.
just probably like progressed.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I feel like that's partly why we felt such peace about getting induced because we were like, what would have happened if I was still pregnant and I had that high of a
Mm-hmm.
fever? Like we were talking to a friend later and she had a friend that had like a really high fever like that and her baby she was still pregnant and like her baby died. And so I'm like, I can't imagine like what would have happened. So I think I already had it. I've learned now postpartum, I think my body is just prone to UTIs. It's really annoying. But yeah, I think it was already like I had it like before I gave birth. It just got worse. But yeah, that was really long winded. But that was like my whole start to my postpartum journey. It was really rough. Um, I think like I knew like you don't sleep, but I love sleep. I'm someone I
Me
love
too.
8 hours
Me too.
sleep. Like yeah, like I'm a grandma. Like I remember like I loved being all cozy in bed and everything. And then I like quickly realized that you don't really sleep that much when they're a newborn. And so I think I had a hard start, but I am loving being a mom now. So I exclusively pumped for 4 months, and that was very rough on me. I feel like because of the hospital, it just like wrecked like breastfeeding, and so I
Mm-hmm.
pumped exclusively for 4 months, and my mental health was going down the drain. And I was like, I love Enid, I love providing milk for him, but I just can't do this anymore. So I decided at 4 months to stop. And weaning was not hard because I feel like my supply was just already dropping. And so I
Mm-hmm.
stopped and my mental health like was way better. We're doing so good right now. Enid is 7 months. It's been so fun to like see all the milestones that he's hitting. Like right now, he's saying mama, which is so cute. He still doesn't completely sleep through the night, but he'll wake up like one time on a really good night. So
Mm-hmm.
being a mom, it's so fun. There are hard moments, and I definitely did have hard moments, but it's all good. Yeah, like I said, he's saying mama. He's rolling over. He's starting to crawl, which is crazy. I can't believe it. But being a mom is the best, and I love that like it's such it's like such a sweet like challenge. Like me and my husband are responsible for teaching him about Jesus and all of that. And so I'm just excited to teach him about the Lord and see how he grows. And so, yeah, I am currently loving motherhood. He's eating
Oh,
solids. He loves food, by the way. Like, I hope he stays that way as a toddler because I heard toddlers are picky eaters. But no,
mm-hmm.
motherhood is really good.
That's awesome. It looks good on you too.
Yeah. Thanks.
um, and any advice for women who may fear the idea of being a mother or feel like they aren't equipped to handle it?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I feel like I've heard before, like some women are like, "Oh, I'm not ready to have kids," or "I'll be ready in like a year or 2 years." And honestly, I feel like you just have to jump into it. And obviously, we weren't planning to have a baby, like right off the bat. But you have to jump in And I feel like obviously for different seasons of our lives, the Lord equips us to help us to handle what life throws at us. And I feel like something that the Lord is really teaching me that I mean, He's in front of me, He's behind me. He's equipping for everything that I need to take care of Enid. I remember, and so the Lord will equip you and He'll equip your listeners if they want to, become moms one day. And it is hard, but it is so good. I remember one night I was rocking Enid to sleep, and he fell asleep, and I was going to put him in his crib, and just in a moment, the Lord's like, I've been with you every day so far, and I'm going to continue to be with you every single day and help you raise Enid. And so I feel like that's one big takeaway that I can give your listeners is that the Lord will equip them. And even if it doesn't feel that way, like He's always there and He's always going to guide you into all the decisions that you have to make as a mom.